F25, went no contact with my family, M54, F50, and M20, when I was 18. Now they are reaching out. What should I do? Original, 12th of June 2024. Update 23rd of June 2024. Posts preserved on Raw, Reddit. F25, went no contact with my family, M54, F50, and M20, when I was 18. Now they are reaching out. What should I do? For whatever reason, my parents didn't want me. Once they had my brother, who we'll call Adam, I was pretty much ignored. They didn't abuse me, but I was pretty neglected. Everything was about Adam and how smart he was or how athletic he was or how he was just the best thing since sliced bread. Then there's me, a pretty average kid who got decent grades, didn't play sports, wasn't super popular, and liked to read books. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Why can't you be more like Adam?" What made me cut off my family was when they didn't attend my high school graduation. Adam had gotten hurt that morning, a sprained ankle, I was eventually told. And our parents rushed him to the ER because he swore up and down he broke his leg. I only got one text from my mom telling me that they would make it up to me with a dinner to some family restaurant I mildly enjoyed. I was done after that. I'd been used to be neglected or forgotten about, but I thought they would at least attend my graduation. I moved out that summer to go live with my cousin, F30, and her wife in Arizona. Then I blocked them and they haven't been in my life since. My family did try to get into contact with me after I left, but it was mostly just telling me I was a bad daughter and overly sensitive and didn't care about Adam. Years later, I still don't have any contact with them. I'm now married to my husband John, M26, who loves me and treats me like I matter. We also have a daughter, 2F, that I love more than the world itself. I have a close-knit group of friends and a job that makes decent money that I enjoy. I'm not saying my life is perfect or a dream or anything, but it's definitely leagues better than my childhood. Which brings me to last week, when my cousin called to tell me they had a message from my parents and my brother. This isn't anything new, but the message itself was. Instead of the usual blame game, my cousin told me that they wanted to apologize for everything. With Father's Day coming up, they were hoping I could come down to visit with my family and we could have a discussion. I know most people would scream, "Don't, it's a trap, they want something from you," but I'm not so sure. For one thing, none of them have ever reached out to apologize for anything towards me, but I still have connections to my extended family, so I have info about my parents and Adam from them. None of them are sick or dying and need an organ. They're not in debt and need help with finances. My parents aren't hoping to retire and want to be supported. Adam doesn't need help with student loans, fellowship kid, so it could be genuine. But at the same time, I don't know if I care enough to have a discussion. My life has been great without them, so why do I need them now? I wanted them as a kid, but not anymore. However, John says this could be a genuine olive branch since they never apologize. He might be right. Even if I don't agree to have contact, I might finally get some closure or at least some answers as to why they didn't want me or why Adam was so much better than me. Should I hear them out or just tell my cousin to tell them to go step on Legos? I'll take any advice at this point. Comments. Trashcat_attacks. From someone who is also NC with immediate family members, I suggest you weigh the cost/benefit. What will it cost you? Emotionally, financially, physically? And is it worth the risk? Walk through possible outcomes, best case and worst case scenarios. For me, if they wanted to apologize and talk, I wouldn't be willing to take the time and money to fly to them and do it on their terms. They could have sent a letter, right? The answer is yes. Due to the gaslighting and psychological manipulation my family has put me through, I'd want it all in writing. I'd hear them out but want to see it before I even gave it a chance. Oop, they don't actually have my address, so they couldn't send a letter directly to me. But they could send it to my cousin and she could always give it to me? Square, F4672. I would not contact them. I highly doubt they are remorseful. It's likely that they want something. You have your family now, husband and child, why allow your parents to say anything? Oop. If they did want something, I feel like my cousin would have told me or warned me that something was going on them. Yet there aren't any signs that they need anything, other than have a discussion with me apparently. Shooter 1. They want access to your daughter. I would be cautious. Oop, I thought so that too, but my husband said that if they just wanted access to our daughter, they would have tried to reach when she was born. Unless my brother is suddenly sterile, it's not like they won't get more grandkids. Scupper, Spluck. Girl, you just got past the most miserable babysitting years / the years where you're most exhausted and likely to need a break. It makes total sense for self-absorbed grandparents to only reach out now that she's a precious 2-year-old. In their minds now they can be fun grandparents instead of helpful ones. Oop. Reading this reminded of what my mother used to say to me all the time. You were a difficult baby, always crying and whining and needy. Your brother was so easy and such an angel. Now I'm thinking you might be onto something, like, maybe they didn't want to see my baby in her infancy because they thought she would just like me, and God forbid they deal with that again /s. Update, 11 days later. Hey guys. A lot of you gave solid advice on my first post, and I really appreciate it. I did ask my friends for their own advice too, but they had more bust their kneecap school of thought. Funny, but not so helpful at the time. Anyway, even though a lot of you warned me, I was just too curious to not talk to my family. Still, I told my cousin to tell them that I was not meeting them for Father's Day. I had always intended to reject the idea. I wanted to celebrate John and my Phil for being awesome, and that I wanted to do a Zoom meeting instead. I was expecting them to pitch a fit, but they agreed. Yesterday, we met on Zoom. I made sure to have the meeting at my cousin's house because my house is my space and I don't like intruders, whether in person or virtual. John was hiding in the room out of sight, and my daughter was with my cousin's wife. Long story short, my mother is a revolving door and both my parents are idiots. To make it a longer story, my mother had an affair with my uncle Rick, M60, my dad's older brother, and caught God after she found out she was pregnant. My dad forgave her and agreed to raise me as long as they never did a paternity test. Apparently it was easier to act as my father if he didn't have confirmation that I was his brother's child. Spoiler alert, I am not Rick's kid. Unfortunately for me, I have always been my dad's bio daughter. Rick apparently can't have kids, and my dad only found out on Mother's Day when Rick's wife made a joke about it. So my parents just resented me all this time because they were convinced I was Rick's child, despite not having proof. It didn't help that I was just so mediocre compared to Adam, like how Rick is compared to my dad. What I mean by that is that my dad works as a fancy desk job in a titled position and Rick is just your average truck driver. So clearly that must have meant I couldn't be my father's child. /s. They begged for forgiveness. My mom tried to blame my dad for not taking the test. My dad tried to blame it on my mom for being a truck stop for Rick. But they both wanted me to forgive them because they were sick with regret of how they treated me over a misunderstanding. They swore up and down that, even if they weren't always there for me, they still loved me and were still my parents and we can be a real family now that the misunderstanding was finally cleared up. Even Adam was pushing hard for it. People asked about our relationship in my last post, but there's not really much to say. He was like a roommate. I was never bullied by him and he didn't really interact with me, though he definitely reveled in our parents' favoritism. Still, they were all very sorry, but I had to understand why my parents acted like they did. Now everyone wants to make it up to me and be part of my life again and be the best grandparents and uncle they can be to my daughter. I obviously told them no. Anyone with eyes could see they just wanted forgiveness to make themselves feel better. I told them that my life was better without them and I didn't need them anymore. They got mad at that and called me heartless and cruel and a bad daughter for being so unforgiving and for not being more understanding towards them. Because it was just a mistake that I had a shitty childhood and had to play second fiddle to Adam. I just told them to forget I existed and ended the call. Then I burst into tears, and my husband had to comfort me. Their insults didn't hurt me, even after all this time of no contact. I'm used to that. But all that time feeling like shit and suicidal and wondering what I did to deserve my mistreatment was just a waste. All because my parents were massive douche canoes with chicken nuggets for brains. I'm glad I didn't waste money to go see them. I'm also glad I heard them out for my own closure. They're trying to aggressively reach out and contact me, even getting other relatives to do so. I've already got a bunch of emails and texts this morning ranging from pleads to just hear them and insults about being cruel and heartless. I've been ignoring them because I've washed my hands of my family and will continue to remain in no contact. So yeah, thank you for all your advice. It meant a lot. Smile. Comments. Prior_benefit 8453. I'm sorry you had to go through this. What a cluster. Off, Kira. The audacity of basically saying you were so mediocre, clearly there was no way we'd ever think you were biologically dads, so really it's your fault for having been so mid. You owe them forgiveness. And understanding. Because you suck too much to be treated well by your parents. You know what? At least you got an answer. It's a moronic answer, but it's an answer. Now you know that your family remains shit. Good for them, they have each other. Stay on course. You've clearly nothing to gain from mending fences. Except being called too average to be some fancy, successful asshole's kid lol. Melodramatic, mouse. I kind of wonder if they ever did a paternity test on the golden child. That would be interesting and I bet possibly somewhat surprising. I think that if anyone wants to get a hold of Op in the future she should demand one as a stipulation. It would be hilarious if Adam ends up not being dad's kid. I am not the oop. Please do not harass the oop. So what's your opinion? For more stories please subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell. Thanks.